I get a little bit tired, I must say, of people defending a system which is dysfunctional, which is cruel. 87 million uninsured, 30,000 people dying every single year, 500,000 people going bankrupt. For what reason? They came down with cancer. I will tell you what the issue is here. The issue is whether the Democratic Party has the guts to stand up to the healthcare industry, which made $100 billion in profit, whether we have the guts to stand up to the corrupt, price-fixing pharmaceutical industry, which is charging us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. And if we don't have the guts to do that, if all we can do is take their money, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Excoriating the Democratic Party. Effectively calling them corrupt. If you listen to his answer, if we can only just take their money, what does he mean by that? If you're taking their money and you're not passing legislations in a way that is beneficial to the society, well, it sounds like you're corrupt. He was on fire in this debate. All of these questions, is Sanders over? Is his time done? Not by the looks of this debate. That man looks like he wants to win. And he is fired up on that very particular point. And essentially, I get sick and tired of hearing you bitching about this one very specific point of whether or not we can do this. We put a man on the moon. You're telling me we can't put through policy that we just take the cash and then shuck and jive and tell people that you can't do things that really, if you put your mind to it and your legislative acumen to it, you could actually do, especially if the goal and the point of healthcare was indeed healthcare and not just profit. That's a great clip. That's an awesome line. So, shocked the shit out of me, honestly, when I saw that NBC News attributed that to Warren. They attributed it to Warren. Are they lying or are they corrupt? Blasting a corrupt and unfair system. I get a little bit tired, I must say, of people defending a system which is dysfunctional, which is cruel, 7%, etc., etc. Warren said in response to attacks on her support for single-payer healthcare. That's not what Warren said. You have one job. One job. Just one job. One job. Get the news right. And I understand if we're having a conversation of something taking place abroad in Syria or Nigeria or somewhere, and it's so far away, it's remote, and, you know, I get it if you get it to some degree wrong. Even if you get it to some degree wrong just because you have a certain bias in your head, this kind of American bias. I don't like it, but I get it. I can understand it. Fair enough. One job. You watched the debate. All right. That was a really good line. Sanders said, bam, done. And you go get a beer. You done your job. How do you do this? How do you do this? How does this happen? This is not in a far-flung village in Africa. This is literally watching television and reporting what you see on television. There can be no simpler job. Infinitely simple. I'm surprised you get paid for it. That's how simple it is. And you still fuck it up. And I know you get paid for it. And you still fuck it up. Did you do it on purpose or did you do it on accident? And isn't it always strange that all of these accidents always go in one specific way against one specific candidate? You took a line that Sanders delivered that was on point and gave it to Warren. Utterly atrocious. One last point, and I'll end this. I don't want to keep this one too long. Poll comes out. Emerson. Now, Sanders does not do great in this poll, in the overt poll of the caucus. Iowa's a caucus state. Sanders drops below Buttigieg. Warren and Biden are tied. Now, take heart, Sanders supporters. Don't let the polling get you down because the polling is just polling. And you have several months to go from then to now, and the events are not static, and that's good. If you remember, Kamala Harris popped up and then popped immediately back down. You want to see where she is in this poll? Let that sink in. 2%. You know what Tulsi Gabbard is? 2%. Oh, let it burn. Let it burn. My point is, yes, Warren is up, but that's not a situation that Warren is up without flack, which is something she hasn't gotten through this entire debate. And even though Sanders, to my chagrin, has not attacked Warren, maybe his politics is better than mine. Meaning, Biden, who's threatened at this point, like any animal that's threatened, attacks the thing that's threatening him, Warren. And so he goes after Warren whole hog on trust. The very issue, the very issue that I think Sanders would never raise, but that I think has the most bite. Meaning making a policy differential between Warren is one thing, but the thing that hurts her more than anything else is credibility. She's promising all of this stuff. She doesn't believe all of this stuff, so she's not going to really push for all of this stuff. And she can't even give you an honest answer on taxes. That bites, that hurts. If you and I are talking and I'm saying she can't even be honest on whether she was raising taxes or not, that's a fair point. She's raising my taxes. Now, it is also a fair point to say that those people will get more in savings on their Medicare for All plan, but we have no idea what plan Warren is pushing for. So I can't criticize something that I don't know. I can only criticize the fact that she doesn't reveal it. All I'm saying is this campaign has just gotten more interesting because Warren has just gotten a target on her back because mainstream media has essentially attributed a leading position to her campaign. Sanders hasn't gone anywhere. He's just there. And at some point, not to mention the events in regards to the states, they're not isolated. A person winning a particular state, especially if Warren pulls out a victory in this particular state, and let's say she wins in New Hampshire, this notion of Biden's inevitability seems less so. And as it goes further into the states, it makes it look less so. The state polling is less relevant. I mean, I can show you a state poll that's out where Sanders is in the number 2 spot. Polls are flexible. Emerson's just one of many. Well, the part that's interesting here, though, is this. Sanders is the only candidate that wins in Iowa against Trump. Every other Democrat loses. Every other Democrat loses. And it's like, what? So he's in 4th place in the election, in the caucus, but it's a caucus. And it's a caucus of a few people. So it's not like the entirety of the state. I suspect strongly that this poll is the entirety of the state, meaning when the state gets a choice, they say, yeah, we like Sanders better. Meaning Republicans put him over. The very people you need to win, right? Look at this. North Carolina, Sanders beats Trump by 3. Wisconsin, Sanders beats Trump by 3. Ohio, Wisconsin, Sanders beat Trump by 5. Ohio, Sanders beats Trump by 6. All of these are swing states. All of these would have given the victory to Clinton. She didn't get those states. Sanders is getting them in spades. And again, I point out that of all the candidates, Sanders is the only one beating Trump in Iowa. Now again, these are polls, and take them with a grain of salt. They're flexible. This notion of electability, I have to be honest, is a fickle mistress. And that can shrivel up at any moment for Joe Biden's campaign. Joe Biden has gone on the offensive, essentially tearing down Elizabeth Warren on the very thing that she is weakest on, trust. Her parents didn't elope. She's not Native American. I would love, again, somebody asked her, if you had an ancestor that was black, would you have called yourself black? Fascinated by that question. I would love for her to give an honest answer. Nobody asked her that because that feels to be improper, despite the fact that all of those things hit on this notion also of trust. Joe Biden is tying the fact that she can't answer a question on a non-existent health care bill about whether or not taxes will go up, and tying that to untrustworthy in the abstract. Sanders is not making the argument. And maybe just maybe, if people find Warren to be dodgy on this notion of trust, maybe they come home. Come home, come home, come home. So I don't want this one to be long, and I didn't want to use this one to be long. I just wanted to point this out. And yeah, I think it was The Hill that ran this and didn't mention Sanders' name in it. Meaning, instead of saying Sanders is the only candidate to beat Trump in Iowa, they say something like Warren and Biden loses to Trump in Iowa. Artfully trying to screw him. This, however, is shameless. This is shameless. And yeah, I do think it's on purpose. I don't think it's an accident. I don't believe they're just making mistakes. Because these mistakes always go in one direction. Let's see.